Great. Okay, hello everyone and welcome to the IABM webinar, The Road to Winning a Technical Emmy. I'm Karen Cohen, the Director of North America for the IABM. Normally our webinars are reserved for IABM members, but we welcome non-members to this webinar so you can get a taste of the types of business intelligence we can provide. At the end of the presentation, you'll be able to view some of the additional benefits we offer and further information on how to join the IABM. This webinar will also be archived but accessible to IABM members only, so that's another great reason to join. We encourage you to type in your questions on the toolbar during this webinar, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. And I would like to introduce you to Stan Moote, our advisory CTO, who will be presenting today and has graciously offered to help IABM members with their Emmy submissions. Stan?
Great, thanks, Karen. I'm Stan Moote, and I've been involved with the Technical Emmy Awards for the last couple of decades. For those of you who do not know me, I began my television career in 1977 as a plant engineer for CFTO TV in Toronto, Canada. Excuse me. Seeing the need for worldwide standardization of television, I got involved in the original SMPTE Digital Video Standards Committee meetings that created CCIR 601. I co-founded a startup focused on digital video that was subsequently acquired by Leach and then Harris, where I held Vice President CTO roles for over 30 years. After starting the first European office for Leach, I became acquainted with IABM. I can't even begin to explain how valuable the networking contacts I made from IABM members over the years. IABM expanded and were the first group to create realistic worldwide market reports specifically tailored for our niche broadcast market. As a business person, this was very exciting as other market survey reports were highly inaccurate with little factual basis. I became actively involved on the IABM Technical Advisory Board, helping IABM build a strong set of training courses that will give a solid base for new colleagues in the business as well as keeping industry diehards current. Currently, I volunteer in a capacity of advisory CTO at IABM, and I figured it would be beneficial for IABM members to learn about the Emmy Engineering Technology Committee, hence this webinar. For those of you on the call not familiar with IABM, as Karen mentioned, take a look at joining. This webinar is one of the many member benefits that make it worthwhile. Everyone in television covets Emmy Awards. Many IABM members have not recognized their technologies could be award-worthy. Have you envisioned having an Emmy statue on your trade show stand? This webinar will help guide you through the process. These awards were launched in 1948. And there's a fair bit of history. They started out in LA and New York. And of course, we ended up with East Coast conflicts, which is pretty common in the television business, and even lawsuits going back and forth at one point. I've been focusing with the New York group, and this is what you'll see the presentation about. Although both groups seem to be working in harmony again, and this is great to see. So if you'd like to see a few more details on the history of this, you can click on the link and go from there. From our side of the business, Emmy Awards are for outstanding achievement in technology and engineering development. So let's understand what this specifically means. These 4 lines say it all. An award to an individual, a company, or to a scientific or technical organization for developments and/or standardization involved in engineering technologies which either represent so extensive an improvement on existing methods or are so innovative in nature that they have materially affected television. I can't stress enough how important submissions need to be within the scope. So let's focus on exactly what the scope says. It may not be obvious even within the committee. We're always referring back to the scope. It gets read at the beginning of every meeting. Obviously, this one's obvious, an individual, but it could be multiple people. And, of course, it can be a company. Now, when a company, what we mean by that is the company that developed or owns the technology currently. With all the mergers and acquisitions flying around these days, it's sometimes difficult for us to track this one down. A scientific or technical organization, typically standards organizations, would be on this list. Additionally, it could be a combination of these, such as a person and a company. So when we talk about engineering technologies, we've covered this a little bit. It's about technology and engineering development. However, it's not just about the technology. It needs to be an extensive improvement over how things were done before. Or it needs to be something truly innovative, something no one had done before. We often see new technologies at trade shows, but creating the cool technology just isn't enough. To match the scope, it must have materially affected television. The committee is only focused on technologies that have already materially affected television. In the committee, we see all sorts of cool submissions. As you will see in a few moments, the committee's quick to weed these ones out that we didn't believe had material effect. And I'll cover this a little bit more shortly. The committee does a slight tweak on the scope sometimes to keep up with the times. So here listed is the older scope, and you can see it's pretty much the same way, although we needed to figure out a new way so that we can include, or a way we can include, new distribution and storage techniques. So what we did on this was we just decided to leave out the last part, transmission, recording, and reception of. And then that allows us to cover all the new media types and distribution types and storage. So the next one to focus on is the word television. And Emmys, of course, are based on television. And television really may have a broader definition, or actually does have a broader definition than what you might assume. So we specifically refer to this as broadcast technologies for capture, recording, playback, conductivity, production, and display, broadcast networks. Over-the-air, cable, multi-channel video programming distributors, over-the-top, TV everywhere via the internet. And of course, cable programming delivered this way, digital media programs, whether they're video on demand, linear, or live, delivered by these methods. Digital media delivered on physical media. It could be DVD or Blu-ray. Professional technologies for transmission, capture, recording, playback, conductivity, production, and display. And you may not think about this, but consumer technologies as well for supporting all types of methods of capture, recording, playback, gaming, conductivity, production, and display. And yes, I did say gaming. Gaming is a very strong part of television. And actually, the committee does have a separate committee that focuses strictly on gaming beyond the technology side as well. So here's a broad range of innovations that I pulled out from 1996-97. The awards are done annually, but for various reasons they show up in two-year groupings, 95, 96, 96, 97, etc. But I just thought it would be good to pull out 1 year's worth of award to give you a taste of what they're like. So the first one here was pioneering application of 270 megabits in large-scale facilities. So this was awarded to CBC and DirecTV, And they're the companies that put together SDI video in their large facilities for the first time. I was certainly, being in Toronto, I was actively involved in the CBC project. And I must say, I can't even remember the number of dozens of tours that I gave customers coming over just to look at the plant to see would they really go to 70 megabits. So an award was given to that. The next one here is of course, a really cool one, the wireless remote control for consumer television. And you have to think that certainly impacted television. Of course, this was done in the 50s, and I believe the original one just had 4 light sensors on each corner of the screen for volume up and down and change channels. That was, of course, before my day. My day, I remembered the ultrasonic ones. But either way, that truly defined what a couch potato was and how we moved over into the new realm of remote control. Certainly, developing real-time manipulation for 3D, on the 3D side for linear editing, nonlinear editing. Now that made a big difference. All of a sudden, the god-awful wipes were available, but besides that, it really did some cool things for editing. And the next one, CRT projectors, actually brought us into widescreen and big screen, large screen systems, not only a little bit on the D-Cinema, but also things for home use as well as commercial use. And when you think about it, this was a lot of technology, not just doing normal projector type things as far as getting the video out, but also specialized lenses had to be developed in this. And the last one here, you can see even back in '96, we had awarded this as significant impact, motion estimation. And you can imagine we wouldn't have compression without this. So who decides on Emmy Awards? A panel of highly qualified engineers working in television that considers the technical development and the technology impact. The panel is called Engineering and Technology Committee, adhering to a strict set of guidelines governed by National Academy Television Arts and Sciences. I'd like to thank the committee actually for helping me put this webinar together. A few people gave me some of their notes from years gone by, and it was very helpful. Mike Sinberg, Bruce Ross, Bill Jar, Jim Bennett, Louise Spergel, Tom Hindle, and of course Mark Shubin, who's a cornerstone of the committee, and the committee chair, Bob Seidel. So what I want to do now is actually get to the process and how that works. So I put together this simple flow diagram laid out on the procedures based by NATAS, and here's the flow chart. So basically we have nominations or submissions going in, and of course we end up with either awards or no awards on the back end. So let's get into the details, starting with the nomination form that needs to be filled out and submitted. And getting in your submissions early is key. Start now if you're serious to receive an award. The technology number is supplied by the committee chair and issued an order of submission. As a committee member, we need the numbers to have quick reference labels because the names or titles can often be changed, and often they're too long, and it can get a little confusing throughout the process. So we just refer to everything by numbers. And the technology name is usually about 20 words, and it clearly identifies the submissions. Submissions in the past usually fall into 3 categories. Often the submissions would combine 1 or 2 of the categories listed here, but it's always limited by the scope, not the category listed. So the first one I listed here is pioneering development of a technology. So in this type of submission, the committee will seek to identify the earliest individual companies and or standards organizations or organizations that invented, developed the proposed technology. So this one's meant for the earliest instance of the technology. So the word pioneering is typically in the first word of either the title or the submission. And development of a technology. In this type of submission, the subcommittee will seek to identify the individuals, companies, or organizations that have the widest market or delivery impact for the proposed technology. And the last grouping typically would be standardization of a technology. And in this case, it's the group it's usually a group, but sometimes it can be an individual that had the strongest impact for the standardization. So as an example, when MXF was proposed, it had received one as a group, and the other thing in this GXF was actually proposed, and Grass Valley picked that up as standardization as far as that goes. So then the synopsis comes, and the synopsis must clearly, again, as I mentioned, focus on the scope. It usually discusses how innovative is the proposed technology. So if you're filling one of these out, list the new innovations. Make a point why the improved existing technologies or invented new ones, and how an extensive improvement on existing methods it was done. And of course, as I mentioned before, how did it impact television? And make quantitative estimates on this, of both national and global impact. More accurate details will be developed by the subcommittees, but the synopsis must reflect the submission's belief of the wide-reaching impact on this. And in the case of standardization, please describe how the standard enabled the technology to be wide-reaching. Now, one point I really want to cover on this is cut the marketing hype. You know, Marcom people can help you fill out the form, but really get some engineering people involved in this, because the committee members are seasoned engineers in the fields of television and media, so we don't want to see all the marketing hype. We want something that precisely describes the technology or standardization considered, and make it clear so that the committee members know what they're researching. I'll get to this in a minute when we get back to the chart, but vaguely worded submissions will often be rejected by the committee, or it may even actually open up other avenues of suggestions or changes. Remember, the committee members take the nominations, but also the committee members go, oh, wow. In the case of, for instance, the television remote, it was a committee member that said, oh, wow, we should, we should honor this one. And there's quite a few as far as that goes. So they aren't just necessarily outside influences that make those decisions. We have 3 meetings in the process. The first meeting is usually initially housekeeping and reviewing the scope and procedures and verifying if they're okay, if they needed to be tweaked, adjust, usual committee type housekeeping things. And then we actually get into some of the nominations listed, as well as some ideas for new nominations. At the second meeting, the technology nominations are all presented and reviewed in detail. The name may be changed to be more specific, and the synopsis could be clarified. So this is what I say, this is a risk alert. If the scope isn't matched, it'll be tossed out, the submission, or the submission could be completely rewritten. It could be broadened to include different technologies. Pioneering, of course, is based on the first instance, not the first company to be successful or the one with the largest market penetration. So be really clear, if you're putting down pioneer, make sure you're the first. it could end up going to someone else. Occasionally, though, even in pioneering, there are people that have co-developed things or developed things really close within the same time frame. So sometimes 2 awards can happen on that. So in the meeting, all nominations are seconded by a committee member to make sure that we want to see that on a go-forward basis. And the nominations that are approved by half the voting members half the voting members are divided up for subcommittee research. And the subcommittee is usually 2 or 3 people. In some cases, it may be a little larger. And to get this underway, we like to do this before NAB. NAB is a great place for both networking, finding correct companies and people, and also set up meetings to discuss the technologies and impact in details. Questions are sent out to different companies, and it's actually even hard to find the correct person in the company to fill out the questionnaire. That's one of the biggest problems we have. We know a company's done something. We'll send out the questionnaire, but we don't get a response. Or typically, it also will end up with their PR people, and they don't know how to make the response on it because these are engineering and technology awards. Between the second and the third meeting, the subcommittee does a research report, and they report out making recommendations. And the recommendations usually an award or no award. An award may be multiple lines that you can vote for. And when we get to the third meeting, and when we say multiple lines, it may say company 1, and the next line may say company 1 and company 2, things like that. And the next line may company 1 and an individual. And the reason for that is of course, the subcommittee's done some research, but it's up to the members the full membership to decide who it really goes to or if it should be broadened. This is all done by email off the committee's Reflector site. And this is where the fun begins because it's all hands on deck. Everybody on the committee reads the reports, gets in their 10 cents worth or quarter even of, I should be doing this. You missed this company. Maybe you didn't know about this historical reference, or, this technology had a bigger impact over here. Or this field was actually too narrow, or back and forth. So getting all that out in the open gets back to the subcommittee, and the subcommittee can tweak the reports before the final meeting. At the final meeting, the reports are presented and the verbal debates start. These can get quite intensive as everyone's devoted to the industry and most have strong opinions on the committee. Secret ballots are filled out for award. As I discussed, could be multiple lines, no award, or even push to next year's session. We could push to next year's session because there's not enough research. Didn't believe the effect was material yet, i.e. too soon. The technology was too young. Or other reasons like not enough research, or somebody uncovered something else that took us down another rat hole and we needed to research. Or it was just plain too controversial for a decision at the meeting and needed more time. So during the voting process, 2/3 agreement must happen. Otherwise, the submission is considered as no award. And even on the ballot, we do put push to next session down there. So if awards recommended, the recommendation goes on to NATAS for final approval. So that's basically the process as far as that goes. As you can see, nomination in, 50% approval on the nominations, subcommittee review and research in detail, and then 2/3 vote for the award or no awards by secret ballot. And this is all kept secret and cannot be disclosed to the media until an official press release is issued. So you can see this is the press release from the current one. And the award ceremony for the last, I think, 8 or 9 years has been in Las Vegas at the CES convention in January. The web link here actually is a video of the awards earlier this year, if you'd like to see what the ceremony is like. Typically, winners buy tables. Individuals can buy seats. And the awards are quite prestigious and do get a fair bit of press, which is good to see. And speaking of press, there is a strict policy about Emmy usage. Just like many companies have branding standards, policies, and trademark rules, so does Emmy. So does the Emmy Group, and it's up here on nymemmy.org. The usage policy. I urge you to go through that. Like I say, many companies do this. I remember back in the Harris days, Harris has a nice stylized A, and I was actively involved in AFD, so I started to use that on things, more to promote how strong Harris was with AFD. And of course, the branding police came back at me and went, "Oh, that's a stylized A. Well, that's against our branding policy. You can't use that." So, no complaints. I can appreciate having a tight branding policy that is necessary. And one important rule here is you can only use a photo of the Emmy statue in advertising and publicity for 1 year. Although at any time you can certainly refer to it. It's just you do have that restriction as far as that goes. So I do urge you to have a good look at this. I wanted to just highlight this. I sent a note around to the committee, just said, gave them a quick email blast and said what a few of the technologies they thought were cool or important. And obviously the videotape recorder. And you can see this one actually showed up as a Lifetime Achievement award by the people that worked on that, and you may recognize a few of those names, but that certainly impacted the business. Zoom lens technology for television cameras. Television cameras are certainly different beasts. Again, a big impact. And speaking of lenses, I already talked about that for projectors, but when we moved over to HD, again, HD lenses, lenses for 16:9 needed to be developed, and for HD. Another technology with a big impact. I mentioned the wireless remote, how important. Development of DVD technology. And the next one is Blu-ray, so you can appreciate the importance of that. And we do keep up with the times. The next one here on the list actually went to GoPro. There's no question that GoPro has really impacted a television program. Some television programs are like 80–90% GoPro cameras strapped everywhere, and all the production's done on that. So it's really changed how TV programs are made these days. And the last one I put on this list here, Hank Mahler at CBS Technology Center developed the color bar signal. And just think today we see color bars everywhere, and where we'd be without that. So this is a picture of me again back in my younger days, and I wanted to list the meeting cycle times. You can see the first meeting is mid-January, but really right after the new year the submissions start to come in. People do this through the email reflector. And most of the committee members often get involved in this process as well. So the sooner they get in, the better, because they are initially reviewed in order. So you like to get yours in quick before we, as committee members, get a little bit overloaded. So I represent the IABM at these meetings, and I'm happy to shepherd through IABM member submissions from companies that have not done this before or don't have a representative on the committee. So contact me directly, stan@mootepoints.com. And please put in the email subject Emmy nomination IABM. Make sure you get a reply back so it doesn't get lost in the email ether or something like that. And you can also find me on LinkedIn as well. So in summary, make sure your submission matches the scope. And remember, it must have material in effect. It must have material. I'd like to thank the IABM members and guests for joining this presentation. Please be sure to visit iabm.org. And remember, being a member of the IABM can help you with your professional and business goals.
Great, Stan. Thank
you.
So
with this, do we have any questions? Yeah, go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, I was going to ask if anyone had any questions. You can certainly type them in. In the meantime, I've got a few questions. I thought I'd ask if that's all right. Stan, is there a list of previous award winners so folks can kind of see what they're up against?
Actually, there is. I suggest you start. Somebody else is unmuted on here, but anyway, we're echoing. That's better. I suggest that you start by looking on the Wikipedia site. The awards are listed there. Let me just see. I can flip over here. You can see here there is a PDF as well. If somebody shoots me an email, I can send this around. This goes back from 1948, though. But we do certainly have a list as far as that goes.